We're looking at rearranging equations, and when we do that, it's similar to solving in the sense that we want to use our opposite operations. And when we say that we want to make something the subject, all that's saying is that you want it by itself, right? So you want it by itself on one side. So right now, for example, right now if you look at this equation, what's the subject here? Well, E is the subject because it's the letter that's by itself, right? But if you want M to be the subject here, so these few questions, they want you to rearrange that these particular variables are the subjects. Again, just like what we did over here, we need to do a bit of rearrangement, right? So think about your opposite operations here. All of these letters are multiplied together. So I'm just going to be saying, okay, well, if I want to think about the opposite of multiplying, it's dividing, right? So I'll divide both sides by c squared, and that'll equal to m there. So now m is the subject. Just as a convention thing, typically we'll write that letter on the left-hand side so that you may see them do this, for example. But these are essentially the same answer. It's just that by convention, we typically write the subject on the left-hand side, okay? All right, next one over here, h. Bailey, do you want to help me out? So how can I get h by itself over here? What things do we want to get rid of, do you reckon? The half, yeah? So what's the opposite of a half? Well, what could we do to get rid of the half? Yeah, we could divide it. What would we divide by? 2? 2, you reckon? So this is the thing with the fraction that I was showing, I think, Semra earlier before.
Yeah, can't you convert it into a decimal?
Yeah, so if you have like half, or what is half? It's 0.5, right? You can do this in a few ways, right? You can think about, oh, well, if we do the opposite, if right now it's being multiplied by half, right now we're dividing by half. Well, if you divide by half, like let's take 5 for example, and you divide this by half, notice what happens to the number. What happens to the number? It doubles. So dividing by half is essentially the same as multiplying by 2. So when you have a fraction here, you have two options. You can either divide by half or you can multiply by 2. They're actually the same thing, right? So because the reason why you multiply 2 is because you think about, I've got a fraction here, I want to get rid of it. I'm multiplying by what's on the denominator, on the bottom, right? So we can get 2a, that's when you multiply by 2, that half's going to go away. And then we just look at the h now, and then that should be clear what we need to do. We need to have h by itself, right? So all I do, yeah, go Saxon, divide by. Yeah, good. So 2a. Now, do you guys like divide by b as fractions, or typically what I usually write them as fractions. You might want to write a division symbol, but again, kind of like a by convention thing, we'll write the fractions rather than the division symbol itself. Yeah. A over, oh, I see. So you've gotten, so Tristan says h is equal to a over half b. Do you guys reckon that's the same thing? Or? Yeah? You can always check in your calculator. I think it does end up being the same thing. You always check in your calculator. If you put in some values for a and b, see if they're the same, that should work out. Right. Are these ones any trickier? Well, I mean, they're different. Don't know if they're trickier, because basically we can always rely on the same strategy, right? Always think about opposite operations, right? Caleb, do you want to help me out with this one here? This third one? What do we want by itself in this one? Sorry, say again? You're really out of it. That's okay. So we want the variable that's in the brackets to be by itself, right? So what's the variable in the brackets there? Well, the brackets, I'm talking about the one in the side. Yeah. Are you following me? Or is it a bit confusing? Yeah? Okay. So we want this one here by itself. This letter here. R. Okay. This is the one we want by itself. I'm trying to get that at the end. I'm trying to get R is equal to something by itself. Right? Yeah. Good. Well done. So VT, I guess, equals to what? Yeah? Yeah. So you're multiplying both sides by t here, right?
Yeah.
So that goes over there. What gets left on this side?
The m squared.
Good. Yep. M squared R. Is there something else I can do here? Square root, you reckon? Oh, square root, Robbie, you reckon? Do we want a square root here, or? So right, go.
Divide by m squared.
Good. Divide by m squared. Look at these guys over here. Just VT over m squared equals to R, and then that's our final answer. When would we square root, Robbie? Just out of curiosity.
When we need to.
Yes, when you have, for example, if you wanted M to be the subject here, you could do that. There's actually no, why don't we do that problem? Let's do it below here. If you wanted M squared as a subject, you need to take the square root, right? So let's just do an example over here. If we wanted M as a subject, this does happen from time to time, so it's good to look at it. V equals to M squared R on T. I'm doing the same problem here, but I'm just saying, what if we want M as the subject? We could apply the same idea. We can still multiply both sides by T. And then we'd get M squared if we divided both sides by R in this case. And then what would you do, Saxon? If we wanted to get, oh, Robbie, sorry. What would you want to do if you want to get M by itself? Yeah. So what would I write? Like that? You happy with that? What's up? What's your question? Equal. Square root symbol. Square. Yeah. It's called a square root symbol. Yeah. Or like a radical. I don't know. They call it different things. It's called a radical symbol. Just as a point of contention, like mathematically, this is still correct. Sometimes you may see them have this symbol here, because technically there are two solutions, but you guys, I don't think you'll need to worry about that, but I will check up on that. Okay. Last one. Can you help me out, Reese, for this one? Listen up, guys. Shh.
What do you ask?
We want to get you the subject here, but
I honestly can't even see that.
you can't see. I'll zoom in a bit.
Okay. Yeah,
Still too small.
No, I can see it. I'm just kidding. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, the first place to decide is what do you want to get by itself? What letter do you want to get by itself? You, right. So, what we do then is we say, all right, I want U by itself. So then I'm saying, okay, well, let's get rid of the other stuff, right? So this stuff over here, how do we move it over? Good. Subtract it. So UT, so hopefully you can see like this idea of balancing things now. What you need to do is you just leave everything else on the other side, so UT stays there. And then one last step you need to do, divide by T, yeah. It's not the nicest looking one, but it still works, I guess. So there's your final answer. Not the prettiest equation, is it? But